My 40 male wife 36 female discovered my stepdaughter 18 female basically does pornography occasionally. We're uncomfortable with it because of the other kids 17 male 16 female 14 male 14 female. My wife and I were on vacation last week and decided to drive home on the afternoon evening of the last day, rather than the next morning. The garage, which tends to loudly announce we've arrived home, wouldn't open and I've since figured out was dead batteries in the opener remote, so we came through the front door. My stepdaughter's car was in the driveway, which almost always means she's home, but the house was dark and quiet, and she didn't seem to be there. Curious as to whether she was actually home or not, we went upstairs and knocked on her bedroom door. We could somewhat hear her voice talking to someone, assumedly on the phone, but she didn't respond to the knocking. So my wife opened the door and stuck her head in the room. My stepdaughter was apparently going at it with a dildo in front of her laptop at the end of the bed, talking to someone through her Bluetooth earbuds. That suddenly led to a lot of very confusing and embarrassing outbursts and reactions from both my wife and my stepdaughter. And, after I caught the drift of what had just happened, I left them to discuss whatever it was that they needed to discuss about the incident. Apparently, the last few months my stepdaughter has been going on some chat with a randomly paired person website, looking for guys who are willing to pay her money through PayPal in exchange for letting them watch her masturbate. I'm not sure how all the technical details work, but that's the gist of it and, in my opinion, it's basically doing pornography. Now, my wife and I try to stay reasonably open and accepting of our kids' sex and sexuality choices, but this one is definitely pushing my wife's limits of acceptance. Still, my wife is now at least tolerating the idea as ultimately being my stepdaughter's own choice as an adult, albeit, likely a foolish one. However, we have 4 other kids who are teenagers and still minors. They live with us 50% of the time. 3 of them 17 male 16 female and 14 female are mine. And the 4th 14 male is my wife's. My stepdaughter and stepson have different fathers, and my stepdaughter's biological father has never been in the picture. That is to say, we have my kid's mother and stepson's father to partly consider in any of my and my wife's parental decisions, despite being very questionable. While we are ultimately considering this sexuality choice of my stepdaughter to be her own, we have major concerns that the nature of her sexual activities have a bearing on our household overall. For example, we would imagine masturbating in front of random strangers is bound to bring out the occasional crazies, even possibly a stalker or 2. We just can't imagine child services being okay with us keeping our other kids living with us, with someone basically distributing pornography from our house. My stepdaughter is arguing this is a way to make lots of money very quickly and easily to save up while she's working on her associate's and bachelor degrees. She says that she can usually make about $500 in only 2 or 3 hours. My wife argues that my stepdaughter cannot be considered a resident of our household if she engages in this type of behavior, basically kick her out if she continues. My stepdaughter retorts that she's been doing this since she turned 18 years old in November, still in high school, and we never even were aware. So it shouldn't be an issue as long as none of the other kids become aware. And now she'll be extra careful that they never find out. My wife tries to negotiate that she at least do it from a hotel room, but then my stepdaughter says it's expensive and defeats the whole purpose of trying to save money. And so the arguing continues on and on, etc. Any ideas on how to compromise something between us and my stepdaughter which gives her the freedom to do whatever it is she, in our opinion foolishly, wants to do with her body, all the while not risking this looking being bad for our care of the other kids if we were to allow it. TLDR, should my 18-year-old stepdaughter be allowed to masturbate in front of random people on the internet from our house, assuming she keeps it secret from her minor step-siblings? My wife and I just discovered this. Edit, forgot to include TLDR. Edit 2, holy cow. I had to run a bunch of errands and came back to approaching 600 comments on this thing. I need to do a few things for work this afternoon, so can't respond until tonight US Central Time Zone. I was hoping to get a couple dozen ideas and perspectives from Redditors that I hadn't thought of for consideration, but nothing close to this. I have briefly skimmed a lot of comments, and most of it is good stuff, so keep it up. Sorry I can't respond to it all sooner. It's a lot of comments, though. Thank you for all the feedback so far. I mean, at the very least you guys should be making sure she knows about and uses a VPN and any other advanced internet security measures necessary. The US intelligence community couldn't track down a Russian hacker until the one time he forgot to enable his VPN before logging on. But also there should be no location identifying features in the room or visible through a window in the background. She also needs to be aware of what FOSTA SESTA means to the work she's doing. And she needs to have separate bank and online transaction accounts from her personal accounts, cause PayPal, other companies can and often do straight up steal all of her money if she's making it against their toes. Plus she needs to have all her tax info fully figured out. Whether she leaves or not is a personal decision for you guys. But if she leaves and you guys know it is for this reason and she isn't taking steps to protect herself, you guys may still have to deal with it later down the line. If PayPal freezes her account with thousands of dollars in it and all of a sudden she can't pay rent, then that's going to become a you guys problem anyway. If she is just dumping all of her SW money into her regular checking account and not accounting for it on her taxes, then that's also going to become a you guys problem at some point. I have zero issue with X work. I think it should be fully decriminalized, but right now it isn't, and anyone engaging in it needs to be fully informed and have the tools to ensure their safety and livelihood. I think this might be one of the most straightforward and reasonable responses here. Totally in the right to assume that an 18-year-old hasn't considered these when most people I know in their late 20s, early 30s probably wouldn't have thought of some of these either. You and your wife can be accepting of your kids' sexualities and X lives, but it doesn't mean you have to be enablers of actions you don't agree with. You don't have to push your own boundaries to please your stepdaughter. She's free to sell X for money. And you're free to not have your home be where she works. Put your foot down. You're supportive of her decision to make money off X work but not under your roof. She has to find another place for that. She can move out or rent a cheap hotel-motel room, just not at your house. Second story. Am I the a-hole for not accepting my sister's relationship with my ex despite her having cancer as a teenager? Not the a-hole. My 25 female father married my stepsister's 23 female mother when I was 4 and she was 3. We've lived together most of our lives and are a family. She and I were extremely close. She developed cancer when she was 14 and was sick for about 2 years. She's since made a full recovery. During that time, my parents became understandably overprotective. They also asked a lot of me. I quit my extracurriculars so I could get a job. The money went towards her medical bills and so I could drive her to appointments. I didn't go to dances and any fun activities I did needed to include her. I did almost all of this willingly. The exception being having to quit my high school volleyball team. I did throw a bit of a tantrum about that, but was swiftly punished. And I think having one emotional breakdown was pretty chill given the circumstances. Anyhow, I go to college and meet my ex. We'll call him Ben. When I am a junior, we fall in love. Blah blah blah. He and I move in together when we graduate. So we've been living together for about 3 years. We were serious until July when I walked into my bedroom and saw him ducking my sister. I broke it off. Tears were shed. He moved out, etc. My sister apologized at first but then backed off. I thought she was giving me space, but last week she called and asked if we could meet up. She told me that she and Ben were in love and were just telling me as a courtesy before they started posting photos online. Distraught, I left her in the restaurant by herself and did not pay my portion of the bill. She later Venmo'd me asking for the money. She told my parents, who then called me to their house, telling me how disappointed in me they are for not supporting my sister's relationship with Ben. They brought up the fact that because she had cancer as a teenager, she never learned proper social etiquette, and has a hard time meeting people. I don't buy this, in part because I've seen her socialize just fine, and since we spent a good chunk of the time she was sick together, that would also mean that I should have bad social skills as well. By that logic, they then told me that if I don't accept my sister and Ben's relationship, they may have to go no contact with me. I reminded them that I am also their daughter and they should understand my point of view, but they are adamant that this is about me being jealous of her. For the record, I am not jealous of her. I am not upset that Ben picked her over me. I am sad about the end of the relationship and do feel betrayed, but Lord knows that I don't want to be with a cheater. What I am upset about is the fact that my sister chose Ben over me, that she slept with Ben knowing he and I were in a long-term, committed relationship, and continues to be with him knowing how much it hurts me. Now no one in my immediate family is talking to me and I am getting messages from aunts and uncles and cousins telling me that I am in a hole and a selfish beach. Edit. Thank you everyone so much for your comments. This has gotten more attention than I expected and am having trouble keeping up. So if I don't say thank you, then thank you. I've been given a lot of food for thought. To be honest, while I've had moments where I've been resentful or upset about my teenage years, I've always thought that I did the right thing for my sister and for my family. And that time wasn't all miserable. I was very close to my sister and we made things as fun as we could, but I didn't think of it as an abdication of my parents' responsibilities, or that they were doing wrong by me, which many of you pointed out. I definitely have a lot to think about. Thank you again for making me feel less crazy about all of this. Update: sometimes you can only laugh. Just got off of the phone with my cousin who saw this post and said he could explain a few things. I asked him why he was on Reddit instead of school. He asked me why I was on Reddit instead of work, and I said touch. He told me that after my conversation with my mom, she went to his house and talked to my aunt. And here's the deal. Turns out my sister is not only in a relationship with Ben but 4 months pregnant, which means she and Ben were ducking for longer than I had even guessed. Apparently my parents are so adamant that I forgive her because I am already ruining their experience of their first grandchild. That's right. I am less important than my stepmom posting ultrasounds to Facebook. This is where we're at. Anyhow, I called out of work sick the rest of the day and am going to drink a lot of alcohol. Like, a lot of alcohol. And then start thinking about what the duck I am going to do. I was cheated on with someone that I actually defended to others. We were kind of friends, though I was closer to her boyfriend. They were polyamorous. My relationship was not, and my boyfriend and her became best friends. I honestly was uncomfortable with their friendship because she'd made some veiled comments that were basically about us joining in their relationship, but only when my boyfriend was around. I didn't think too much of it until I later learned that she made those comments when it was just them two, but they all but stopped once their friendship began. About a month after they became friends, they started an emotional affair that lasted a month and ended with one physical situation which made him feel guilty enough to tell me. The girl made posts on an app that very few knew her account name about how she wanted things to continue but didn't want me knowing, and tried to convince boyfriend not to tell me. I did my damnedest not to hate her because I was working things out with my boyfriend until I thought more about those posts and just the fact that her apologies seemed hollow. Her getting pregnant from it was my biggest fear for months. I couldn't imagine the pain of him not only cheating with someone as close as my sister, of whom I put my teenage life on hold for, but also getting her pregnant, and the way things were for me. I went to the mental unit of the hospital for a night because I was worried that I might lose control of myself and do something stupid, not suicide. It was one of the 2 times in life that I got the urge to cut. I've never done it but was clearly worried I might. This was super long and I honestly don't remember the original point, but OP shouldn't even consider herself anywhere near an awe. I'd tell family to shove it. You are choosing to go no contact with them because they obviously don't care about her mental or emotional well-being. You're not the a-hole. You're not the a-hole. Your parents are enablers. Cancer as a teen did not shrink wrap her and isolate her from the entirety of human mores and values forever and ever, amen. From what you describe, it sounds disturbingly like you have been deemed the cannon fodder of the family. Take some time for yourself. Put them on the back burner. Third story. My 29 female husband 30 male wants to get back together, but he has a girlfriend 25 female. We were together since we were 18, but we separated 3 years ago. The separation was my fault because I pushed him away when he was trying to be there for me after a miscarriage. We didn't have any direct contact in the first 6 months because I felt extremely guilty being around him because I had an accident that could have been avoided, which I blamed for the miscarriage. And it was easier for me not to face him. Despite that, he has been more generous to me than he needed to be. The dilemma I have is that my ex-husband wants to try again and is adamant he doesn't want a divorce. However, he has had a girlfriend. He claims she's just a FWB and their relationship has always been primarily about X. But she reached out to me several times and has told me he is the love of her life. I know from speaking to my Sil that he has broken up with her several times and that she has been trying to force her way into their family. When I spoke to the girl, she seemed to really love him. She made it seem like the only reason they hadn't moved in together or taken the next step was because my husband felt guilty because he is still legally married. She said I was like a black cloud hanging over their otherwise perfect relationship. She also has a daughter who she said is attached to my husband and sees him as her father figure. Also, she said I was making her a struggling single mother again by stealing my husband, and that his family were manipulating him into taking me back because they didn't like her. I still love him, but I don't want to be the other woman. It's strange because we're legally married still, but I still feel like a homewrecker. Even though they're currently broken up, my family and friends all think I should mend things with him, but I just don't want to hurt someone the way I hurt him again. I could really use some advice on what to do. Too long didn't read my husband, and I separated because I pushed him away after having a miscarriage. It's been 3 years and he wants to try again, but he has had a new girlfriend who claims he's the love of her life. How could their relationship be otherwise perfect when he has described her as an FWB and it is just about the ex? She said I was making her a struggling single mother again by stealing my husband. Does she rely on him financially? Does he give her money? Basically, someone is lying and you need to have it out with your husband and find out where this lady gets the stones to tell you that you are the black cloud in their otherwise perfect relationship. You need to ask him why she feels like their relationship was perfect and they were ready for the next stage in their relationship if it weren't for his pesky wife getting in the way. Because the person who really needs to get her to leave you alone is your husband. Hit like. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing to our channel.